Hello everyone, it's Mira from Fruit Village, and today in this live I will have a special guest, Chris Kendall, and we will talk about living in a tropical paradise. And it only helps me to invite him, and until he is working then and Chris can join in, I can show you a starfruit, which is a beautiful fruit. I love it very much, and it has a very nice because in the tropics tomato is not as convenient, but this one can be a good substitute for tomato. Hey Chris, I'm just showing a starfruit here.
Ooh, delicious. I love starfruit.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah,
Like this one.
that's a super big one. All twisted up too.
Yeah, and I just thought that I like to use it in the kitchen as a substitute for tomato.
Oh, neat.
Because it has a very, it can have, there are starfruits that are sweet, but this one is more savory. So it's like a tropical tomato substitute in a salad, and you love it. And yeah, so I just wanted to show in the
Such a beautiful fruit.
Yeah.
I sometimes like to take them and put them in a nut milk bag and squeeze the juice and blend it with pineapple, starfruit pineapple juice.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have a pineapple here because I prepared a few fruits harvested from the land.
Ooh,
Yeah,
nice.
this one. Yeah, this one. It's our pineapple.
Fresh
It's
pineapple,
like fish inside.
the best. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You can eat a bunch and not have that mouth burn, right?
Well, if you have a very, very, very ripened pineapple and you harvest it like later, as late as possible, then the burning is not that intense. But yeah, sure, it has a sourness.
Yeah, one of the benefits of being able to pick it fresh, like super ripe when it's growing in your own area. That's when I'm in the tropics and on my friend's farm, just one of the best things ever is like perfectly ripe pineapple picked. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a similar experience than when you buy a tomato in the store or you get a tomato from your bush. It's just your ripened tomato from the garden is like bam.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pineapple is the same. Yeah.
Totally different experience.
Yeah. So thank you for joining me, Chris. It's nice to have you here. And
of course, yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, it's funny because you were the first one. I had my first interview with you like 1.5 years ago or so. And
yeah, about reps, right?
I was so, yeah. It was very like, I was very stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, and not because of you, because of the camera, but I'm getting used to it. But yeah, this live thing is a different thing, and it's also a bit uncomfortable, but it will be fine.
It can be. It takes some getting used to for sure. And I sometimes get a little bit of sweats before and get a little bit nervous myself, but the more you do, the easier it is, right?
Now, still, I hope it will go away.
It can depend sometimes on the topic or what's going on in life around it, right? But
okay, yeah, okay,
just my experience. Who knows? Maybe by your next live you'll be like, ooh, and just like it's nothing.
Okay, yeah. So I know that you have retreats. I mean, you didn't do your retreat this year in Costa Rica,
I actually haven't. I haven't done a retreat, at least not in Costa Rica, since 2020. Or no.
Oh, no,
Or no, wait,
you just did one when we had our interview. It was like 2 years ago.
Was it that? No. I did. Okay, wait, no, yeah, I've done one since then. So it wasn't last. No, geez, Louise. Yeah, time is passing by so fast. Yeah, it was actually my last one was last year. I had a gap between that, and then yeah, because I had 2020, and then I had this January of 2024, and so that was the last one that I did.
Yeah. So you why? I mean, why did you skip it?
In short, I mean. One of the big things is because I'm applying for my residency out here, and I'm only allowed for 6 weeks travel per year, and most of that got sucked up by my family and a couple little other things like a festival and stuff like that. So it's just been really due to that. And then since then, the retreat center that I normally do them at, they sold. and it was, you know, like a long-standing relationship there, and it was just like, you know, really well oiled machine, right? Where it was just really easy and fun and smooth and felt like family and stuff like that. But a lot of it again is just, you know, that, and then also just because my inability to travel as much as I would really like to, you know. So I did do a small weekend retreat out here with some friends last year, and we may do that this year. We haven't quite decided yet. But yeah, some stuff out of my hands, really.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, but your most of your tropical living on the permaculture farm is coming from this uh, land, but you mentioned that it's not
Yeah,
that has these changes, right? So
yeah,
how did it look like when you had your retreats there? So what could you experience there when you just like you just step in an
yeah.
established permaculture fruiting tropical farm? What can you experience when it's already like ready to experience the good things?
Yeah, well, I mean, just first and foremost, Costa Rica is so beautiful and has such a wild, like fresh energy. I really love the energy out there. And the farm of life where I was doing them at, you know, it was a well established. In the very beginning, it was still pretty new, to be honest. But it grew and grew, and there was more and more fruit trees, and the house setups and the cabinas and stuff got really, really nice, and the land itself just blossomed and grew. There was lots of greens, a nice greenhouse. There was a watering hole where you could actually, we like stone by stone built a cold water jacuzzi that had fresh water running into it from a stream. There was an exercise track and a nice campfire, a whole bunch of medicinal herbs and plants. And I mean, there's thousands of fruit trees, you know, it was pretty amazing that way. And it was in the heart of the Diamante Valley. So we were just a stone's throw away from looking at the Diamante waterfall and, you know, going to a whole bunch of different nature hikes and stuff like that. Uh, the main house too that had the kitchen, it was just beautiful and open air and had like rebounders and hammocks and a big table so we could all eat around the table. And of course all the kind of kitchen stuff, right? To be able to make different things because I liked to showcase some of my fancy recipes. So we'd, you know, have a pizza night, and we'd also have really simple fruity meals for lunch and breakfast. And yeah, overall, it was just a big immersion into the wild, amazing nature and produce and food of Costa Rica. More of a permaculture mindset, going over the landscape and doing a first day kind of permaculture tour of the entire place, going into all that and the concept. And otherwise, you know, like I like to bring in some adventures. So, you know, we'd go, like I said, on those hikes, but also go surfing and stuff like that as well. So it was a pretty all immersive raw food lifestyle experience mashed with adventure and fun.
Yes. So you mentioned that you had very abundant fruit meals, and although
Mhm.
you like to show up your fancy recipes during your retreats,
Yeah.
and that's, I can imagine that's a big thing during a retreat.
Mhm.
But in everyday life, how do you imagine how does it change if you can go out and get these fruits from the garden? How does it evolve your can it evolve your diet or your relationship with food and everyday meals?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, having that deeper connection to whole foods that are fresh from the land and, you know, like eating fresh, right, picked, like we're talking about with the pineapples, it's just like a different experience and really creates that connection to the fruit and quality, you know, like how big of a difference quality makes and how much more juicy and fresh and sweet it can taste. And, you know, just from tree to plate to mouth or tree to hand to mouth, you know, it's a really fun experience. So we get everyone to enjoy that. And compared to my everyday, you know, I mean, I still have a lot of the fruit to hand to mouth, but it's less from the tree, of course, out here. So just getting boxes of stuff, you know, it's a little different and it's maybe not quite as super high vibing, but still very healthy and feels great, you know. But there is something special to being so close to the source where you're growing it and being a part of that process. And so being out there and doing that, it's a blessing to see, to do, and to share with other people. Because, yeah, I've met many people including a few who've been on my retreats and stuff that since then started their own permaculture farms out in Costa Rica and have their own places. So it's beautiful. I love to see it.
Yeah, it sounds amazing because I'm not sure how like retreats can affect people differently, and
Yeah.
it can, like in a long run or long term, it can um, be not so effective or effective. And I like that you say that you have a follow up, and you have like your people, they have changes, they make changes. That's great, because yeah, it's a good thing to have a retreat, to maybe to have a new experience or to rest a little bit. But when we can make like lasting changes, that's, for me, that is a more valuable
Mhm.
way of doing retreats.
Yeah. And I really find that's true though. Like, and that's why in part sometimes I used to, more so in the past, but I used to do live-in consultations where I'd like actually come and stay with people for a week to a month at a time. One time I stayed with someone for 8 months and lived with them and help teach them how to apply this lifestyle and sometimes make food for them. And it's wild. Like, even a week together with people that have been living and breathing this, and it's just like everyday life, it can make a huge difference. And that's why I think retreats and festivals and even shorter term gatherings, whether they're a potluck or fruit luck, it can make a huge difference for people because it normalizes it, and little teeny things you don't think of all of a sudden become clear because you're seeing it firsthand, and questions can be asked in the moment instead of like off the top of the head at some random time. So I really think getting together in these kinds of events is absolutely life changing.
Okay, so going back a little bit about of the tropics,
Yeah.
what else? Um, so we mentioned fruits,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what other health benefits do we have when we live on the tropics?
Well, I mean, one of the things I love the most is never wanting to wear anything other than my shorts. Like I just basically wear my swim shorts when I'm in the tropics, and it's kind of funny because, in other places I almost never wear shorts. For some reason, I just don't really love wearing shorts, but when I'm in the tropics, it's the only thing I want to wear. So that's nice. I also find I need to shower less, maybe it's because I don't mind, but I shower a little bit less. Uh,
Okay.
I find that I maybe need to eat just a little bit less as well because the food is just a little bit more
Oh,
nutrient dense.
okay.
Um, like, and I'm not speaking a ton, but like a little bit less, or I feel even more satiated. I just feel like, whew, like that's perfect.
Hmm.
Of course, sun, you get more sun, but for me being so fair-skinned and prone to sunburn, I need to be a little careful when I'm in the tropics, so it
Yes.
makes me a little bit more mindful of the sun. Uh, and I mean, I love surf. So, I mean, when I'm in the tropics, I love surf. It's one of my favorite things ever. So, I don't know if there's anything kind of outside of the scope of those kinds of things you're looking for, though. Is there another angle to it that you're wanting to explore?
Not here, but yeah. Okay, so you love surfing. That was the last thing that I've heard. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Is there
So
is there any
did
other
you
angle to
mention
that, though?
sunshine?
Yep, yeah, sunshine. Like
Okay, yes.
I
Mm,
love the sunshine for sure, but
yes.
because of my fair skin, I
Oh
need to be a
yeah, the
little careful of it.
skin. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
but it's just because you are not used to it, I guess. Because like when people come here from
Mhm.
winter, then they can get surprised that they burn.
Oh,
But
for sure. No, for sure.
yeah.
I also have a history of sunburns and I have damaged skin. So I've actually had carcinomas, like precancerous carcinomas and stuff. So with that in mind, I do need to be
Hmm.
careful,
Yeah.
even if I'm really well hydrated and suntanned and stuff like that. I'm more prone to it. When I was young, my doctor said I was allergic to the sun, which I don't believe, but at the very least, I am kind of sensitive with my snail-like white skin.
Hmm. Okay. So when we found out this topic, this tropical
Mhm.
topic, well, we live in the tropics, and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I
beautiful.
just yeah, I love it, and yeah, it's great, and the most important reason are fruits, of course, and but the whole experience is yeah, it's worth it. and it's amazing. And what you told about this established permaculture farm is that's the dream, and it's great to work towards it. But then when we had this, I didn't see your book yet.
Oh,
But
you haven't
since
seen the
then,
book yet?
not
No?
yet.
Yeah.
When
Oh,
we
yes.
no,
Oh,
and
yeah.
but now I already saw your book and I checked it, and
Yeah.
I would like to just touch a few of your, because you have 10 myths in your book surrounding, but which surrounds raw food diet, and I would like to touch 5 of them, which
Okay.
in a way
Yeah.
is fits in this topic and it interests me. So if you are ready, I would just dive into those. And yeah,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
So there is the first which one is cooked food
Yeah.
myth, and it's like in a nutshell, it says that cooked food was demonized and in the raw food movement, and the most people try to go for 100%, and it's yeah, maybe you can say it nutshell, and then I ask my question.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
The basics of it, I mean, like each of these myths has 6 pages and lots of info going in different directions, so there's a lot to it. But the kind of short of it is that very often in raw food circles, especially in the kind of classic literature, cooked food is demonized as bad, almost with the assumption that if you have some, you're failing, or you're not a raw foodist, or you're worse than if you didn't have it. And it also labels basically all cooked food as poison or toxic, and doesn't make any difference necessarily between, say, steamed broccoli compared to fried food, and it talks about a reaction in the body when you eat cooked food, that your white blood cells go up and it causes acidosis and like an emergency situation in the body. And really, that's not all factual.
Yes.
For sure, if you're eating processed foods, or if you're eating like animal products, and especially when they're fried at higher temperatures or anything like that, it does cause those reactions and causes a rise in white blood cells and blood pressure and all those kinds of things. But there's a huge difference between, like, deep fried or even high temperature baked foods, animal foods, stuff that you create a crisp on, compared to wet heat like boiling or steaming, which doesn't produce any toxins formed, may have some nutrients lessened, but it's not, forming really like detrimental health toxins. So it's more a chapter, not necessarily promoting cooked food in any way, but trying to make it a little bit less black and white, creating less fear, guilt, or shame around utilizing things like steamed or boiled vegetables as a part of your transition. Or if you want to be a high raw foodist, to enjoy those and not feel guilty or shameful about it, because they're not bad. They don't make you bad. It's just,
Yes.
I find healthy, fresh, ripe, raw plants feel better, so that's what I pick. But I don't look at those as like, those are evil and I'm gonna be a bad person if those ever touch my lips. So that's kind of
Yes.
the short version of some of it.
Yeah, I really like it, because in the first 6 years, well, we are on this lifestyle for like 10 years or so, and we were 100% the whole family, kids, and also we, and it was amazing, an amazing experience, and we are very dedicated to be able to do that from our own farm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But letting ourselves to be a little bit more flexible allowed us to start our own fruit farm. So
Oh, nice.
it's, yes, because we just couldn't. It was, well, in a way, it was easy to maintain our 100% raw when we were traveling in Asia, for example. That was fun. That was something very wow, and that was a fruity adventure, and we did it for a few years. But here, when we settled down, we felt that we just there is not enough variety, there is not enough organic food available, and unfortunately, here in Costa Rica, it's a number one country of agrochemicals used in the world, and unfortunately, we can feel in our body.
You can notice it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that in Europe it's different. There are it's different, the quality and the amount of pesticides that is used, but here it's a number one country. So yeah, we noticed health issues because keeping 100% raw, and we had to learn that sometimes it's not the best choice to keep it very like this because of the circumstances. And since we include some steamed, like we just steam sweet potato or pumpkin or anything, and we don't put any salt and nothing, we don't spice, we don't, and when we do fancy things as just raw food, we don't, just very plainly steaming. And I personally didn't really recognize any bad symptoms from them, except that I have better mood and a little bit more energy, of course, when I have my raw periods, because when we can we eat fully raw, but when it helps us to build our homestead, because we don't run after the good quality fruit. We just come home and plant fruit trees, and there's okay, today I can go to the market like 2 hours drive and sleep there and get my fruit and come back, or I can plant 5 more trees. And sometimes it's better to, for us it made us times to be able to flexible, and if especially if we know why we are doing that. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
I think it's really important to be flexible, and I've seen and heard the same thing from many people that, you know, they feel a little bit more energy and more clear, kind of boisterous with all raw food, but it's not a huge shift, you know, to have some simple steamed or boiled vegetables, you know, stuff like that. And in a lot of cases, you know, it can make all the difference depending upon, like you said, your situation, availability, and I think it's important for everyone to make those decisions for themselves and feel comfortable with those, and to, you know, be excited about it, you know, because those are still healthful foods. And this isn't, to me, about raw food diet or die. You know, it's like it's about it's about thriving and finding your balance and knowing it's a journey, and that can change over time, and that's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes, and my kids always say when we have steamed veggies for dinner that okay, I would change this for a jackfruit anytime. So
yeah,
that's our mantra.
good.
Yeah, we would switch. But yeah, it's good to have this flexibility, and for me it's very important to keep boundaries.
Yeah.
So and the kids also are very strict, so they don't. And we are like, we don't even put lemon juice on our cooked food because we just know we don't mix it up. So it's very plain, and we don't. I don't want to build up like addictions or something like that. But I think, like for us, it works well, and we always choose fruits when we can. But yeah, I like that you mentioned this. Yeah. And the other myth.
Important one.
Okay.
You know, I do want to say one last thing about that, because something I've noticed too, like, 'cause I remember reading some older raw books, you know, and like in the book I say, you know, every chapter ends with cooked food is toxic and cooked food is poison, and you know, that kind of mentality. If you really take that on and you feel it, then you're going to have a lot of stress if you ever kind of fall off the wagon and go for some cooked foods. And I've heard other like raw food leaders say, like, if I had a bite of cooked food, I would like die, like, and literally think they're going to die from doing it. And having that much stress and again, guilt and shame around those things, that's often what brings out the horrible digestion if they make that choice. Because if you're like stressed up and tight and like feeling really guilty and bad eating it, well, you're gonna have a horrible experience. It's gonna really hurt. And you know, if instead you're like, hey, this is maybe a compromise, or hey, this is just a choice I'm making and I feel good about it, totally different experience. And again, I'm a raw food guy, you know, and I may get, you know, some stones thrown at me for saying this kind of stuff, you know, but at the same time, like, I want to provide information that gives people the best chances of thriving, of feeling great without guilt, shame, and to know that this is a journey and all of it is valid and great. And, you know, I just hope that helps other people too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can jump to the next one, which is very interesting for me.
Yeah.
Is a fat myth. And it's interesting because durian is the most important fruit we are here for.
Yeah.
And okay, it's not a high fat fruit, but it has fat. And also when we traveled in Borneo, we loved to eat tabai, jungle olives. which is also fatty fruit.
Yeah.
So, and we felt our best ever in
Yeah.
Borneo with jungle fruits, durians, like wild durians, red, orange, yellow durians, and dabai, and we didn't restrict ourselves at all when we were in
Yeah.
Borneo. And I think our diet contained a little bit more fat, well, lot more fat than usually, but more than what is. Yeah, so I'm curious of your opinion on that, because I feel like these fruits are not just satisfying because of the fat, because yeah, that's one reason, but all these jungle durians, they have something more, not just the fat, so they are very amazing. So what are your thoughts on this durian and fat? And
Yeah. Well, there's a couple different angles there. I mean, one of them, of course, yeah, durian is a very nourishing, nutrient dense, calorie dense food. It's also extra high in protein. It's the highest protein fruit out there, and it can range like 25-30% protein, so or fat, sorry. So it can really vary. So if you're just eating durian and that's all you're eating, which I know people who have eaten durian for a month and a half straight, and that's the only meal they've ever eaten, it's just durian day in, day out. And they notice that they get a little bit heavier, like they enjoy it, but they feel a little slowed down. Fat does thicken the blood a little bit, slows everything down. When it gets in excess of about 20%, you really notice a difference in insulin function. So it makes it a little bit harder for your body to pull the sugar out of the bloodstream and into the cells. And, so fat is a seasonal food. I mean, fatty fruits like durian, avocado, nuts and seeds, they're seasonal. So it's natural when they're fruiting to be going a little bit harder into them. It's often during a time where we're kind of rounding out a lot of other fruits, and then some are starting to get more juicy after, so it's lower calorie. So it's like a calorie hit where you get to kind of bulk up, and then you go to a little bit of lighter season afterwards. So I think the issue with fat, even more so than it just, being ideal to be in a little bit of a lower amount, is looking at it over the year and over the seasons. It's not about any single day or even any week. You can have periods of time where it's a little bit higher and periods of time where it's a little bit lower. But history and examples of people doing it have shown if it's high for prolonged periods of time, there's predictable health decline, or otherwise it's more predictable for people to have a harder time sticking to a raw food diet and get less great health outcomes. A big part of that chapter was actually also on the other side of people thinking, well, if low fat's good, then no fat is better. And that's not really the case either. It's about getting enough, and like a lot of things, not making it black and white, that it's like it must be low fat every single meal for the rest of your life. It's like, there's room for a bit of a dance and for fluctuations in the seasons. And it could be, I don't know your situation during those times, right? But this isn't even a projection of what it could be, but let's just put forth the scenario of somebody eating a fruit-based raw food diet and maybe being a little bit underweight or getting a little less calories than they need, or maybe a little less, say, sulfur, which is rich in durian. And then all of a sudden you start eating lots of durian, which is more dense in calories, has sulfur, which is great for detoxification and immunity. And then all of a sudden you feel even better. And it's, extra calories, different nutrition, all those things can come into play. But yeah, it's a diverse topic. Is there a direction that I haven't talked about you want to go with it?
yeah, it's great. And I have this experience with kids that they so having raw kids is a beautiful thing. And so traveling with them and showed all the fruits for them. And also one other thing, that here on the farm is even more beautiful because they are so excited for every piece of fruit, and we just visit our jackfruit tree every day because it has like fruits like this. And for 2 months we visit it every day, and we will do it for 2 more months and until it will ripen. So it's a totally different experience, but like raising them and taking them to Asia, it was amazing. And what is different when we have kids in a raw food diet, that I cannot just tell my kids, okay, we don't have a lot of variety now, we eat bananas and that's the food, because they don't accept it. It's not, they just won't eat bananas for the third meal. And even if I put for them I in a smoothie things or things like that. So in off season, it's because in the tropics there is off season as well. So the main season is in the rainy season, and then most of the fruits are coming then. But in the off season, it's not like that. So one thing is what we do, like the steaming veggies, but also we freeze durian. And they always eat, almost every day, they eat some durian. And I mean, just a piece of durian. Like, they put it in that banana smoothie or just eat it like this. And or something like that. And I find it it's very amazing for them. So it's...
that's great. Lucky kids. I wouldn't mind having a little bit of durian every day. And, you know, and while I promote low fat and stuff like that, it is good to recognize that that's relative. You know, it's not only relative to what you're specifically eating. You know, for example, if you eat more veggies and greens and a little bit more acid fruits, then your body can actually metabolize a little bit more fat more efficiently. But if you eat a lot of sweet fruits like bananas and jackfruits and memes and stuff like that, then it's even more important to keep it a little lower fat, because then that doesn't hinder the insulin function. And beyond that too, it can depend on your age as well, actually, because little kids with higher growing needs and less digestive space actually can tolerate higher fat. And, you know, learning from people, I'm sure you've been privy to this information too. You know, as children are going from, you know, weaning age, you know, whether that's, you know, in standard America, say like 1.5 to 2, whereas naturally it's closer to 3 or 4, even higher in some cultures. You can go from like age 2 to age 10, and it can be normal for kids at age 2 to be getting 60% fat from their diet, slowly going down by about 5% per year up to about age 10 to get to the point where they're somewhere roughly around 10-15%, you know. And again, while I'm kind of, you know, 80-10-10 low fat, I explain more in the book, that really can be a range anywhere from 7 to 15% with blips above or below during certain days or seasons, you know?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So another one, which is like which fits into my favorite topics, is the hybrid and seedless fruits, because I'm into permaculture and planting and cultivating plants, and I like that you mentioned, or you described tropical. Oh wow! I got a big pineapple to show. Oh my gosh, it's a big
People
one.
delivering you delicious food.
Have you seen it? Wow, it's how many kilos is this?
That's a big one. I love those. Oh gosh.
God. It smells good. It's like, I don't know, maybe 2 kilos. No,
Nice.
at least 1 kilo.
Awesome.
No, please measure it.
Yeah, I would guess at least. Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, they brought it from the farm. So
nice.
I was at it's the plants, and I like that you described how bananas are growing, and it's not like they don't reproduce themselves by seed. They reproduce themselves by small buds are growing out and suckers from the mother plant, and that's how it works in nature. And there are a lot of plants that do this, even when they have seeds. There are palms that do these, and 3 kg. It's 3 kg.
Wow, that's huge. That must be juicy. That's a family family pineapple.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So I liked it, and pineapple. It's just when it's on the plant has one pineapple and the top and a few more suckers around the plant or around the fruit. And although the fruit has seeds, depending on variety, it can have some or a lot more. And we could plant those seeds, but they take like 6 years to produce a pineapple. Yeah. And that's fun. And it can give it will give you a different fruit. It will be a surprise. It will be good or not, but you can wait for it for 6 years. And it's, But if you want to eat pineapple in 2 years and you want to know that it's good, then
Yeah.
you just plant the tops, and it
Yeah.
doesn't affect that you reproduce from the seed or not. I mean, the fruit will be a good quality, amazing
Yeah.
fruit. And I don't, the seeds are not the only way to reproduce plants, and that's
Totally.
one way, but not the only way in nature.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm blessed that you feel that way, and I know a lot of permaculturists who do feel that way as well. And it's prevalent in some circles in the raw food community, not all, but some, where it's just again like seedless fruit is demonized and looked at as less than, and thought of as GMO. Like, it's of course GMO because it's all plants should have seeds, and so it's bad for you, and you must have seeded fruit at every meal. And like, I would never buy a seedless grape. And you look into the history of it, but there's been seedless grapes for thousands of years. There's been seedless bananas for thousands of years, and like
Yes,
you said, this happens in nature, and
yes.
we've just mimicked those processes to create new varieties. And a lot of people don't recognize that, you know, many fruits aren't true to seed as well. So if you have a seeded fruit and you plant it, it doesn't grow anywhere near the same fruit. Like, you might have the best mango ever and then plant that seed and it turns out to just be a woody, crappy mango, and it's,
It can be.
whether we're talking about, it can totally happen. So whether we're talking
Yes.
about grafting or we're talking about, parenthesis, I can't pronounce these words properly. I'm bad at it, but different means of producing hybrids or seedless fruits. I look at it as a beautiful, beautiful thing. And again, with many of these myths, it's like I'm not trying to make the case that seeded fruit is better and seed fruit, or sorry, that seedless fruit is better and that seeded fruit is bad. It's just, again, trying to take away some of this stigma and open up more flexibility and more options, and not look down on things that are actually still really healthful and in some cases more fun to eat. Because, like, I love grapes. If I make a grape smoothie, like sometimes I like to blend bananas and grapes. I want them to be seedless because I don't want to blend up all the seeds in there
Yes.
too. So
Yeah. Have you ever tried a banana with seeds? I mean, it's not fun.
yeah, no,
You
it's not
just
fun
eat
at
it and
all.
it's just,
Yeah,
yeah, it's not. And
no,
well, actually, we have a few plants which have a few seeds and we
yeah,
just cut them down. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not fun to eat it. And we want to
no.
like dehydrate it, and then it's full with seeds. It's just not.
People glamour really deserve. I think it's amazing that we can get foods that are really pulpy and big sized and really sweet and less seeds at times, because who really wants to be foraging all day to get really less
Yes.
sweet, smaller, fibrous foods?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like I think it's a beautiful thing. I embrace all of it, and I don't recommend against seeded fruit if you want, but all of it can have its place, and it's all healthful, and it's
Yeah.
not unnatural GMO
No,
Frankenstein
it's
food.
no. I often get this question. What do I think about this? That are old varieties like wild fruits are healthier than the fruits what we have today. And but we could talk about, I guess, this about for hours, I guess. But the short
Probably.
thing is that I don't want to eat those. I mean, it's just I am so happy and blessed that for thousands of years, other people before me did this selection, and now I have bananas like this,
Mhm.
and instead of, and this is full flesh,
Yeah,
and it
that's
doesn't
great.
have seeds in it, and I mean, yeah, it's I'm happy that we did it, and yeah, maybe I don't know the exact answer, but I know that this is a lot more pleasurable and enjoyable,
For sure.
and yeah,
And it's arguable that we have evolved in a symbiosis with fruit. There are like prominent theories out there that really call to saying our brain expanded because of a more dense energy source, and like books like Left in the Dark, they go
yes,
into that symbiotic relationship with fruit. And, this exact topic could be a part of that, as well as just, starting to know where different fruit trees and different sections of the forests are, and being able to plan during seasons and stuff. But if we're just scavenging and getting, like, say old carrots that are just like a twig compared to big ones, but of course with
yes,
fruit, we're getting smaller ones that have a little bit of flesh and just eating all day compared to finding and procuring ones that have more calories. Well, that could be a big part of that evolution.
Yes, and even I see there are monkeys in our area. Sometimes I see them, and in places where the forest is there, and when there is a fruit trees surrounded with this forest area, then the monkeys are coming and checking the fruit trees. And okay, so, yeah, okay,
I missed. You went quiet for a second. I missed what you said there.
Yeah, so I need 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry.
I'll dance for everyone.
Yeah, oh, sorry. So,
Yeah, no.
so even monkeys, they leave trees there because it's too sour. I know there are like rambutan trees, and if the fruit is sour, they leave it there. They don't eat it, and they go to the sweet one, and they don't waste time with the sour rambutan. So it's not just we don't eat the sour stuff.
No.
Even monkeys, they don't eat, and we have raccoons here, and and a lot of rambutan trees around the neighborhood, and the raccoons are coming to my rambutan tree because mine is the sweetest.
It's the best. Yeah.
With
We are the only
organic matter
sweet
all the
hounds, right?
time, and they just come to my tree, and we have to cover the trunk with metal roof pieces, so they cannot go for my rambutan, but they come to my rambutan from the whole neighborhood because they want the best fruit. And it's not just humans; it's the raccoons also want the best fruit. So
of course, it's an evolutionary drive. It's more calorie dense and generally going to be more nutritious when it's like fully ripe and sweet. So it makes sense. I mean, if I was a monkey in the jungle, I'd be probably trying to shake your rambutan too. I'd be trying to get all those sweet ones.
You cannot get my rambutan. If you're a monkey, you cannot get my rambutan.
You'd be like,
no way, I don't.
Ninja.
Yeah. No, I know it's tricky because monkeys like our fruit, and it's like a paradise for them because there is nowhere they cannot find anywhere an abundance like this. But we need to keep our boundaries and don't let them in, and then they have their own space or place.
I've often heard that it can be, and it sounds like you've kind of done this, but in the permaculture framework, it can be really useful to have fruit trees lining the outside and then a pretty good distance from the outside before you have your first trees, because a lot of times they don't like to walk across open ground, but then they'll eat the fruit around the outside, right? And then it keeps your fruit trees a little safer, right?
Yeah, and if you have an area like that, if you have a dog, you can just have a dog there when it's high fruit season. I mean, the monkeys here know rambutan because it's grown here, but they don't know other fruits. So they are just checking in rambutan season, and then they go, and when they don't find anything. But
and they're so good. They're so good. I'm sorry to hear.
It's something that we have to deal with when we grow fruit, that other creatures like fruit as well. But it's but that's reality, yes.
The dream is to have enough growing that they can have their fill, and it's our toll for being on the land, and we have enough that we don't even worry about it. Like that's always been kind of my thought, like so that they can enjoy some, but you don't feel like you're lacking then as well.
Yeah, I think like in permaculture we like zoning, and zoning means that we have zones where we how much of our resources are involved in the zone, and zone 1 is like the kitchen garden, and zone 0 is like the house, and our fruit orchard can belong to us, but optimally every piece of land like above 1 hectare or around 1 hectare could contain or have a little bit of zone 5, and if it's bigger then more, which is pure nature, and we don't interfere with nature. So I wouldn't let them in my fruit orchard, but that optimally I could have a piece of land which is undisturbed nature, and then they can it's a beautiful idea to to have for ourselves and for them also, but not in my fruit orchard. That's not. Yeah, I don't want that.
Not your rambutan tree, but
No,
not that one.
that's my rambutan. Yeah, but what you mentioned, that having trees, if you have enough space to, then that's a nice thing. Yes, and also to have a, like here in this area surrounding the rivers, so you have to keep a forested area on the rivers, both sides of the river. So we are here, and even we don't have a river on our property yet, but the neighboring properties have, and they have to keep both sides of the river, the trees. And monkeys, they live there. They have, like, I don't know how many meters exactly, but that's their area, and that's nature, and it's beautiful that they can live there. And there are ice cream bean trees there for them to enjoy, and a lot of
them
things.
Have those.
Yes, of course. And yeah, we can also throw seeds there from our fruits, and if they are lucky, they can get something. But yeah, and it's good. But I don't see that it's beneficial for the monkeys to get used to human presence. I've seen a lot of monkeys in Asia in different setups, and it's not a good idea to mix them up with our culture. It's not beneficial for them. It's like, it's not giving for them. It's like more like taking away from them, that they are dependent.
Turning them into coconut delivery service.
Yes, and also in touristic areas where they feed the monkeys, and monkeys cannot really enjoy wildness anymore. So it's not. I don't like that. But everyone does what he or she wants. But yeah, it's better to keep them in nature. Keep them in nature. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I have two more.
Oh, my. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So the cure-all myth. I like this one because I thought that if I grow fruits, I will solve everything in life, and I solved a lot of things for sure. But there were I had just issues I couldn't. And then, okay, let's go and eat. And I see it a lot of people as, okay, let's go juice fasting, or okay, then let's do, because something is missing. I think when people do this fasting and like when they decide, okay, I will do a fasting, it's because they have something to solve. So okay, let's do juice fasting because my diet is the gold key for everything. Yes. Yeah. Then okay, it didn't work. Okay, then even me, I know I tried omelette, like 1 meal a day. I loved it, absolutely loved it, but it didn't solve a few things. And then okay, then go for coconut juice, and then go for fasting. And there are things it just simply didn't solve with diet changes, any of these diet changes, and they didn't get worse when I got back steamed food. And for example, I had like some skin issues here for years, and I don't know the name of it, but little bumps are here, and I don't know. And it's just, and I could do anything with my diet, nothing changed. And then I found that we have fascia. I found that we have fascia in our body, which is which how our it's how we all of our organs are surrounded with fascia, and it's connected, and the whole body is called together by fascia. And we can have knots in it, and I started to look for knots, and I had a few knots here. I could feel it. It was painful to touch, and then I just did it for a few days, like 3-4 days, and the whole thing started to disappear, and it disappeared in 2 weeks. Yes. Yeah. And my daughter also had these things, and I did it for her, and disappeared. So she had a knot somewhere here. So I was after this stuff for years to disappear it with diet, but I couldn't. It was not the problem. The problem was a knot here. So and I couldn't diet it away. So that's I really like this one, because we need to look at but I also see this because I was searching, and I found this fascia woman, and she's amazing. Her knowledge is amazing. And but what she's doing, she tries to solve everything with fascia. is the same, is the
It's the
same.
same thing.
And then can't you see that all her digestion problems she wants to solve with resolving fascia knots around the
Yeah.
belly, and that's amazing, and I'm sure it
Yeah.
helps a lot,
All
but
good stuff too.
she
Yeah.
cannot solve the problem, and she just says, yeah, but
Yeah.
I tried to do this technique and new technique but she wants to solve the whole thing with her fascia. And I also
Yeah.
saw this with how is it called in English? Uh,
Acupuncture or
no,
acupressure?
but we have this system when
Oh, the thyroid?
yes,
Yeah.
and they want to solve everything with that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like everyone has this pastoral area and then wants to solve
Yeah.
everything with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not like that. I
No.
mean, yeah, we have to look at this like a lot more, like look widely. And I think the whole lifestyle thing that we came here to the tropics and eat fresh fruit and have sunshine and be in the nature and be barefoot, and all these things are coming together, and not just diet. It's just, yeah, just I like it.
Absolutely. It's a holistic approach, right? And it's so common it doesn't matter, yeah, whether they're talking about raw food or we're talking about yogis or, whatever Pilates person, like they all think it's that one thing, it's like
Yes.
all of those things are powerful. And I mean, maybe I'm biased because I'm a raw food dude, but I do think raw food can be a really big master link that kind of points in the direction of a lot of other things. And it's really powerful because most people are so far off base with food. So simplifying food can make a huge difference, but you can't put everything on just raw food diet. It's like can be hugely helpful. But yeah, just like you experience, like the fascia, I've had huge releases with fascia too, because after accidents, you get scar tissue and you get
Yes.
adhesions and stuff, and then all of a sudden scraping through some of those, like the next day, huge shifts. And so I've had very similar experiences with that. And I love yoga; it's changed my life so much. But I know yoga while eating junk food, you're never gonna thrive as high as you possibly can. But when you bring as many aspects together, you're giving your body the best chance to thrive. And when issues come up, the most rational thing is to try and remove the cause of those and then, take part in things that give your body the best chance to come into a balance and homeostasis. But yeah, I think that's such an important chapter too, because so many people put too much on diet, and kind of coupled with the less is more kind of look too, like it can lead people into, like you said, prolonged periods of detox and fasting, and like, and eventually too, if someone's coming from a standard American diet and they just get into this lifestyle and they think raw is going to cure everything, and then they go into super long cycles of fasting and detox and fasting and detox, you can get depleted, and then you're not going to be thriving, right? Like
Yeah.
that's where a more rational approach, where you're
Yes.
consistently getting enough and forming stable habits for a while so you can nourish yourself and have patience, like that's going to more often provide a smoother, healthier, long-term kind of outlook.
Yes. I like to do things that I can maintain every day. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. Well, of course, when I feel like I don't want to eat, like in the beginning of pregnancy or like something like that, then I don't force myself to eat. But that's intentional fasting. It's just not something that we can maintain every day. And I think my kids make me to do this because I just cannot lay down and fast for a few weeks because they need me. So I need to have
Yeah.
good habits that I can maintain every day for years. So when I think of fasting, I prefer to do intermittent fasting if I feel to, and like eat 1 or 2 meals a day or things like that. But these, yeah, I think it's healthier to have good habits and be in nature and have
I agree.
sunshine, have fresh food, and then take care of our body, move our body, move, always move,
Yeah.
and yeah, and have good
Motion's the
food
lotion.
and yeah,
Motion's
okay, yeah,
the
I
lotion.
didn't
I,
know
I
that,
love
but
that
yeah,
saying.
I always say to my children, and when they have some problems like they don't feel super good, I don't. Yeah, I know resting is important, but I always move them. Okay, just walk a few steps, just like move your body and move your lymph system a little bit, and then you can go back to rest. But moving, and liquid, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. I don't like this approach that just fasting
Yeah.
and taking away. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I mean,
So
and this lifestyle too, it really is one of abundance, and it's the only dietary approach that I know of where most common reason people have issues is under eating. So it just, it's important to, I think, look at it in that way and not restrict ourselves and enjoy food. And I agree with the kind of concept of fasting. It definitely can have its time and place and can be very powerful in certain circumstances. But for the most part, I prefer to try to live in such a way where I don't require fasting. I'm just learning and living within the human design and, trying to live clean and that way I don't really get as bunged up or need those fasting things. It's most often people looking for a quick fix, but health doesn't come from quick fixes. It comes from long-lasting, holistic lifestyle. So,
absolutely. Yes, and I know I have friends who regularly do like extreme fasts and then they just jump back to their old habits. And I just think, okay, that doing a fast, I'm sorry to say this, but it's easy.
yeah,
I mean, it's just
comparatively, yeah.
it's an easy thing. Okay, I do it for 10 days, 30, 60. It's not a big deal. I mean, I can do that, but doing well every day in my life, that's something, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, especially when
It's
the chips are down and you have a really hard time.
yes,
That's
yeah,
when you're tested the most, but that's when you
yes,
grow the most.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. Okay, I have one more.
All right, let's get into it.
Yes, the Fruitarian myth, and
Oh, it's a big
that's
one.
very, yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's a very interesting for me because when I started a raw vegan diet, we started with 80-10-10 and we went to the tropics after 2 years. We just couldn't get enough, not enough. I don't say enough. We just couldn't get that amount of greens what we were used to. It's just a different climate, different crops grow, and yeah, it's just we didn't. We stopped eating greens for 1 or 2 years. Most of the time, we ate some, but when we could. But we had durian, we
Yeah.
had jackfruit, we had dragon
Yeah.
fruit, we had
Great
mangosteen, and
tropical fruits.
yeah, all the time. And we were after the season, so it was not. We didn't stay in one place. We went to the peak season to the next place, and okay, we are in Thailand, and the season ends. Okay, then we go to Bali, and then when we go to Malaysia, and then so we did this round.
Sounds
And
like a dream. I would like to go on that trip.
yeah, no, it was fun, but the kids didn't. It's not very beneficial for kids. They need a home. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So we didn't really eat a lot of greens that time, and we didn't miss it. None of us.
No.
But we came here and settled down, and we just love to eat katuk from the garden, and we just love to. And I eat salads every day, and I even eat beetroot and things like that I didn't eat before. But here I eat beetroot every day raw, and yeah, it's totally different because of the availability of the food. That how much greens or veggies do I eat, and do I feed my children, or how much do they desire? Because I really trust them. They were not ruined like us before, so they have pure true instincts, and it's the same for them. So when we have a lot of durian and champion, nobody wants to eat a salad in the house,
Understandable. Yeah.
but yeah. So that's my approach, and I'm curious, what do you have to say in this?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And, the chapter on Fruitarianism isn't against Fruitarianism, but it offers a caution and also a more realistic view on it. Often people don't even really understand what the term fruitarian means, and they'll say I'm a fruitarian while they're eating greens and other stuff like that, which I think definitions matter. And, if you just say like, oh, I'm a fruitarian, and then people have an idea of that and they go, okay, well, I'll just eat bananas and dates all day and that's all I'll eat, well, you're not going to have the best results. And, fruitarianism in essence is a fruit diet that sometimes includes nuts and seeds, but not always. Some completely say, no, I don't want nuts and seeds because that's it's supposed to turn into a new tree. So I don't want to kill that life, so only fruits. And a lot of people also don't recognize that, fruit veggies, which botanically are fruits, but in the kitchen they're vegetables like tomatoes, cucumbers, bell peppers, that those are fruits too. So a successful fruitarian approach includes all of those things, includes fruit, veggies, and fruits, and ideally is in the tropics, with tropical fruits being the mainstay because they're typically higher in omega-3 and 6 fatty acids. They're higher in protein, especially durian. They're going to be more nutrient and mineral dense because you're getting them closer to the source, closer to the ripeness. So it is possible, and in the short term, I've seen many people do well on a fruitarian diet. But the reason why I come up with this too is that in the long term, you don't see people do very well, or very seldom. It's the exception, not the rule, right? I've only met a couple, like less than a handful of fruitarians that have really been fruitarian for more than 10 years, and even less than 20 years. And it's no shade whatsoever, but I really truly believe they would be doing a lot better if they had some greens. And you look out into nature, and the primates that are the closest to us, they're not fruitarian. They include a lot of greens. There actually aren't any fruitarian primates. So it's really, to me, much more philosophy based rather than reality based. And yes, we can survive on a fruitarian diet, and maybe in some circumstances, again, living in the tropics, a low stress lifestyle, getting varied different types of fruits, those kinds of things. Yeah, maybe we can thrive, but it is walking the line a lot finer, and there aren't any advantages that I've ever seen to really strictly being fruitarian long
Mhm.
term, whereas there are advantages to including greens and being more flexible and getting that higher level of alkalinity. And kind of going back to what I said before too, like if someone is new to this lifestyle and all of a sudden they go pure fruitarian and they're not getting in alkaline minerals from their greens, because that's where the real dense alkalinity is, in the greens, and they're blowing through their past, they're freeing up a lot of acidity. Well, like, that's going to be pretty hard on the system, and it's going to pull alkaline minerals from anywhere it can in the body, and they can end up depleted. Whereas instead, if they have a more rounded, varied approach, and they include more greens, and in some circumstances, green juices. I'm not huge on juices, to be honest, but in some circumstances, green juices, if they can't digest large salads and stuff like that, can be super beneficial and help with the whole process and get people into balance, So, um, and then again, most people don't live in the tropics getting that super high quality food. So if they're eating temperate fruits and they're getting conventional from the city and they're not eating any greens, then again, that makes it even harder for them to thrive, right? And
Yes.
and very sadly too, this, like two of the two of the four Fruitarians that I've known have passed away uh, way too early, and I won't say it's 100% directly related just to Fruitarianism. It's also the other aspects of the lifestyle, like, maybe not drinking water or dry fasting and stuff like that. But it is common for people that eat fruitarian diets to also eat high fat, and it's been shown if you're eating high fat and high sugar fruits, it actually can cause buildup of plaque in the arteries and heart disease and stuff like that. And conferring with people like Dr. Graham, he's seen stuff like that happen as well. And so it's just kind of a cautionary tale, and kind of coming back to some realism, and also just wider knowledge on the subject of fruitarianism, and why I personally am not a fruitarian. I don't like to use the term, and I think it's really misleading for a
Yes.
lot of people.
Yeah. I like what Anne Osborne, she has her book, and she says about greens that if you like greens and you like to eat them on their natural state, so would like to eat a salad as it is,
Yeah.
then go for it. So it's like, yeah, if you give the chance to, even she who is like a fruit lover, maybe
Yeah.
fruitarian, I'm
And
not
she's
sure how
awesome. I
to,
love that.
yeah,
She's
and
the
she's,
only long-term fruitarian I know
yeah,
now, actually.
but she also says, okay, if you don't really want to eat it, then she doesn't see the reason to force ourselves. But when our body desire would like to eat it, then we should. So yeah,
The one
but
thing I'd like to mention about that, though, there's actually a reason for that. Like if you don't eat any greens, it actually weakens your digestion and lowers your HCl, your
okay,
hydrochloric acid production. And if you don't have strong digestion and then you try and eat
mm-hmm.
something with the cellulose and you eat the greens, your body's not going to respond well to it because you
Uh-huh.
can't actually digest it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't digest it well. And that's actually why too, when, oftentimes when people fast or they do a long period of time with juicing or fruitarianism, they have a hard time digesting greens and then they think, well, that's not good for me. I don't actually enjoy it. But what happens is if you slowly introduce those back, or I think more optimally, you don't go really long times without them. A couple weeks here, a couple months, whatever. But if you're going years without any greens at all, it's definitely going to change your microbiome and make it harder
Yes.
for you to enjoy and digest greens. But if you just take small amounts and you try different ones, and that